What if the life you were promised, the one your parents or grandparents actually lived, was never a guarantee written into the fabric of this country, but instead just a brief shining window in history that slammed shut the moment you were old enough to reach for it? What if the collapse everyone keeps saying is coming someday didn't arrive with tanks rolling down Main Street or martial law on the evening news, but instead crept in quietly over decades, hollowing out everything that made America worth fighting for, while most of us were too busy grinding two jobs to notice? I'm going to prove to you today, step by painful step, that the American dream isn't dying. It's already dead, buried under $34 trillion of debt, corporate looting, open borders, and a culture that now punishes the very people who built this place. And because I'm not here to just make you angry and leave you hopeless, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I and thousands of other men are doing right now to protect ourselves, our families, and our futures when the rest of this house of cards finally tips over. Stay with me to the very end because the last 5 minutes are going to give you a playbook most people will never hear until it's far too late. If this is already hitting you in the chest, do me a favor, smash that like button, share this video with every man you know who's still asleep, and subscribe so we keep growing this angry guy army. We're not asking for permission anymore. We're building something new. And listen, if you're done watching your paycheck evaporate the moment it hits your bank account and you actually want to learn how to move wealth outside a dying system, go click the link in the description for Angry's Crypto Academy right now. That's where I teach regular guys, truck drivers, mechanics, engineers, fathers, how to buy, sell, trade, and most importantly, self custody, Bitcoin, and privacy coins. So the government or the banks can't freeze or seize. What's yours when the music stops? The Academy is linked below. Pause this video and go enroll. I'll still be here when you get back. Let's go back to the beginning so you can feel the betrayal in your bones. Picture your grandfather in 1965. He's 30 years old, married, maybe one or two kids already. He didn't go to college. Maybe he did a 2-year trade school or an apprenticeship. He works on the line at Ford or Bethlehem Steel, or he's a lineman for the power company. One income, one paycheck. With that single paycheck, he buys a 3-bedroom house with a yard on a quarter-acre lot in a safe neighborhood 20 minutes from work. He pays it off in 25 years on a fixed 30-year mortgage at 5.5%. His wife stays home and raises the kids. They take a 2-week vacation every summer, driving to the lake or the beach in a station wagon. They paid cash for. They have a black and white TV, one phone on the wall, and they still save 10 to 15% of every check into a savings account that actually pays 4 to 5% interest. When he retires at 62, he gets a full pension plus Social Security, and between the two, he lives better than when he was working. That wasn't the exception. That was the rule for millions of working class men. That world is gone. It's not coming back. And pretending it is keeps men trapped in a burning building. Fast forward to today. You're 30 years old, same age as your grandfather was. You probably have a bachelor's degree, maybe even a master's, because you were told that was the only path. You've got $60,000 to $200,000 in student debt that you'll be paying until you're 50. The starter home your grandfather bought for $23,000, 3 times his $7,500 annual salary, now costs $450,000 to $750,000, depending on where you live. That same house is now 8, 10, 12 times the median household income. You need dual incomes just to qualify for the mortgage. And even then, you're house poor, praying neither of you loses a job because one missed payment starts the foreclosure clock. Interest rates? Forget the 3 to 5% your parents bragged about. You're locking in 7 to 8% if you're lucky. And that's after the Fed spent a decade pretending money was free. Your property taxes are triple what they were in real terms because local governments are addicted to spending. Your home insurance just went up 40% in 1 year because of climate risk or whatever new excuse they invented. And oh, Don't forget the HOA that now tells you what color you can paint your own damn door. You're not behind because you bought too many lattes. You're behind because the entire game was rewritten while you were in school being told to follow your passion instead of learning a trade. Let's talk about wages for a second because this is where the knife really twists. From 1945 to about 1973, productivity and wages rose together almost perfectly. The average worker got paid for the value he created. Then something happened. Look at the chart. Productivity kept rocketing upward, but wages flatlined. Where did all that extra money go? Straight into corporate profits, executive bonuses, stock buybacks, and shareholder dividends. The top 1% captured nearly all the gains. The bottom 50% of Americans now control less than 3% of the nation's wealth. That's not capitalism. That's extraction. And don't tell me just learn to code or start a business. The barrier to entry for everything has exploded. Want to start a plumbing company? Good luck getting licensed in most states without jumping through 2 years of hoops designed to protect the big players. Want to drive for Uber? They take 30 to 50% off the top, and you destroy your car while making less per hour than a 1990s cab driver after expenses. Want to day trade or flip houses? The hedge funds and algos already rigged that game too. The middle class isn't shrinking because people are lazy. It's shrinking because it's being deliberately hollowed out. Now let's talk about the debt bomb that makes all of this possible. The $34 trillion national debt. That's $103,000 per citizen, or roughly $270,000 per taxpayer. The interest on that debt is now over $1 trillion a year, more than we spend on defense, more than Medicare, more than Social Security. And who owns that debt? Foreign governments, hedge funds, and Federal Reserve itself, which is now the single largest holder of US Treasuries because no one else wants them at these yields. Every time the government needs another trillion for infrastructure or student loan forgiveness or the next war in some desert most Americans can't find on a map, they just borrow it. The Fed prints the money, buys the bonds, and the can gets kicked again. But the can is running out of road. The dollar has already lost 96% of its purchasing power since 1913 when the Fed was created. Since 1971, when Nixon killed the gold standard, it's lost another 87%. A $1950 worth about 4 cents today. Your money isn't safe in a bank account, earning 0.01% while inflation runs 20 to 30% if you measure it honestly. Food, energy, insurance, rent, everything that matters. And the rest of the world knows it. That's why BRICS nations are building parallel financial systems. That's why Saudi Arabia just signed deals to sell oil in yuan, rupees, and rubles. That's why central banks are buying gold at the fastest pace in recorded history. The US dollar status as world reserve currency bought us 50 extra years of living beyond our means. Those 50 years are up. When, not if, the world decides it no longer needs dollars to buy oil, the value of every dollar you own drops 40 to 70% literally overnight. Your savings become worthless. Your 401k becomes a 201k. The government will impose capital controls, price controls, windfall taxes, wealth taxes, anything to keep the machine limping along while they protect their own. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's history repeating. Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Venezuela, every fiat currency in history that tried infinite money printing ended the same way. We're not special. Now, let's talk about the part that really lights a fire under men who still have a pulse. The deliberate war on masculinity and family that's been running parallel to the economic gutting of this country. Your grandfather didn't just have more purchasing power, he had authority. He was the head of his household, respected at work, respected in his community, respected by the culture. The media didn't call him toxic for wanting to protect his wife and kids. The schools didn't teach his sons that their natural instincts were a problem. to be medicated away. The courts didn't treat him like a walking ATM and a potential criminal the moment he signed a marriage certificate. Today, hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. A man who speaks plainly is labeled dangerous. A man who wants a traditional family is called controlling. A man who refuses to apologize for being born male is canceled, fired, or doxxed. We've got an entire generation of boys raised by single mothers, TikTok, and public schools that pump them full of Adderall because sitting still for 8 hours a day isn't natural for boys. We've got young men committing suicide at 4 times the rate of young women. We've got male labor force participation at Great Depression levels. And then society has the nerve to ask, where have all the good men gone? They didn't disappear. They were driven out. Marriage, let's be brutally honest. The legal contract of marriage in 2025 is the worst deal on planet Earth for the average man. You sign away half your assets, future earnings, and in many states, your freedom. All for the privilege of maybe seeing your own children 25% of the time if she decides to leave. The family court system is a wealth transfer machine from men to women, and it's enforced by men with badges and guns. Prenups get thrown out on a whim. False accusations are weaponized and believed without evidence. A man can lose his job, his reputation, his life savings, and his kids because his wife got bored or found a new guy on Instagram. And don't tell me just pick better. The incentives are completely broken. Women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces, and the system rewards them for it. No fault divorce turned lifelong commitment into a 10-year lottery ticket. The culture celebrates single motherhood while demonizing deadbeat dads. Never mind that most deadbeats are broke because the child support formula assumes 1970s wages and ignores the second family he's now forced to support on the remaining 30% of his paycheck. Birth rates are collapsing for a reason. Young men are looking at the math, looking at the risks, looking at their divorced fathers and older brothers who got annihilated, and they're saying, no thanks. Why roll the dice on a family when the house wins 50% of the time and takes your kids as a consolation prize? This isn't men being immature. This is men doing exactly what the system trained them to do. Rational risk assessment. When the downside is total destruction and the upside is maybe a peaceful home life, if you're one of the lucky ones, the smart money walks away. And that's exactly what's happening. Millions of men are quietly opting out. They're lifting, stacking money, traveling, building brotherhoods, and refusing to feed their energy into a machine that hates them. That's not incels. That's not losers. That's the most rational response to a rigged casino. We call it MWA, men walking away. Now layer on the border invasion, because you can't talk about American collapse without talking about the deliberate replacement that's been happening in plain sight. And since 2021, somewhere between 10 and 20 million people have crossed the southern border illegally. That's not immigration, that's colonization. Entire cities, New York, Chicago, Denver, are buckling under the weight. Hotels turned into migrant shelters, schools overwhelmed, hospitals closing ERs because they're treating people who've never paid a dime into the system, crime exploding in places that were safe 5 years ago. Gangs from Venezuela and Trinidad setting up shop in apartment complexes built for American citizens. Your tax dollars pay for their hotel rooms, their EBT cards, their free healthcare, their flights to whatever city they want. American veterans sleep under bridges while military-aged males from countries that hate us get flown in on your dime. Fentanyl pours across that same border, enough to kill every American 10 times over. And over 100,000 of your countrymen die every year. That's a 9/11 every single month. And the people in charge call you a racist for wanting it stopped. This isn't about compassion. This is about demographics as destiny. Every one of these new arrivals is a future vote for the party that let them in. It's a permanent majority in the making. Within 1 or 2 generations, the historic American nation, the people who built this place, fought for it, bled for it, will be a minority in the country their ancestors founded. That's not speculation. That's Census Bureau math. And it's not just the border, it's legal immigration too. We bring in 1 to 2 million people a year on visas, many of whom never leave. We import hundreds of thousands of H-1Bs to take six-figure tech jobs while American STEM graduates flip burgers. We give foreign graduates of American universities automatic green cards while your kid can't get an internship. Silicon Valley loves it. Cheaper labor, broken bargaining power. You get to pay higher rent because supply and demand got rigged against you. The result? Social trust is dead. You don't know your neighbors. You lock your doors in places your parents never bothered. You avoid certain areas of your own city. You don't let your kids play outside unsupervised. The America of front porch conversations and block parties is gone. We're becoming Brazil, a thin crust of ultra wealthy elites on top, a massive underclass at the bottom, and a shrinking, squeezed middle that's told to shut up and celebrate diversity. Cities are dying in real time. San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York, once the crown jewels, are open air drug markets with tents on every sidewalk. Smash and grab robberies are so common they don't even make the news anymore. Prosecutors funded by George Soros refuse to charge felonies. Police are defunded, demoralized, and quitting in droves. You can steal $950 worth of merchandise in California and walk away with the ticket, but if you defend your family or your business, you're the one who goes to prison. This isn't bad policy. This is intentional demoralization. The same people who open the borders and empty the prisons tell you that you're the problem if you notice. They call you a bigot, a fascist, a white supremacist, whatever shuts you up, the Ministry of Truth. Big tech, corporate media, academia works overtime to make sure you never connect the dots. They flood your feed with distractions, culture wars, celebrity nonsense, endless outrage bait, anything to keep you from looking at the man behind the curtain who's picking your pocket while your country burns. And the worst part, most people still think voting harder will fix this. Red team, blue team, it's the same uniparty. Trump slows the bleeding for 4 years. Then the machine reasserts control Biden or Harris, or the next puppet opens the valves wide. Congress, 90% of whom should be in prison for insider trading, passes 1,000-page spending bills nobody reads that always, always, always screw you and enrich them. The republic is dead. We're living in a managed decline, administered by people who hate the historic American nation and everything it stood for. I want you to feel that anger right now. Let it burn. Because anger is fuel. But uncontrolled anger just makes you punch walls. Controlled anger, righteous, focused anger is what builds new worlds. All right. You've sat through the autopsy. You've seen the corpse of the American dream laid out on the table. Gutted economy, weaponized family courts, invaded borders, dying cities, a currency in hospice care, and a culture that spits on the men who used to hold it all together. Most channels would end right here with like and subscribe and leave you staring at the wall. I'm not most channels. I'm going to give you the exact playbook that I and thousands of other men have been executing for the last 5 years. This isn't theory. This isn't hopium. These are the moves that have already pulled men out of six-figure corporate slavery, kept their wealth when the market cracked in 2022, let them sleep at night while their friends panic about layoffs, and position them to actually get richer while everything around them burns. Let's go step by step. Take notes. Pause and rewind if you have to. Your life literally depends on how seriously you treat the next 20 minutes. Step one, get completely out of consumer debt and as much out of all debt as humanly possible, starting today. If you're carrying credit card debt, personal loans, car loans at 9 to 25%, you are financial roadkill waiting to happen. In a high inflation or dollar crash environment, the banks will jack variable rates into the 30s overnight, and there will be no refinance fairy coming to save you. Pay the minimums on everything else and throw every extra dollar at the highest interest debt first. The Dave Ramsey debt snowball works, but the avalanche, highest interest first, works faster in a collapsing system. Sell whatever you have to sell: the motorcycle, the boat, the extra truck, the sneakers, the watches, all of it. Your ego doesn't get to eat when your family's survival is on the line. I've watched men sell their $80,000 toy hauler, pay off $60,000 in debt, and sleep like babies for the first time in a decade. Pride is expensive, freedom is priceless. Once consumer debt is gone, attack the car loans, then student loans, then, if rates are high, the mortgage itself. If you have a 3% mortgage and inflation is running 15% real, yeah, you can keep that one and let inflation pay it off. But anything above 6 to 7% right now, start throwing principal at it every month. The peace of mind is worth more than whatever extra return you think you're going to get in the stock market. Step two, build a six-figure cash position that is not in a bank where they can bail in or freeze it. I keep three buckets. Bucket one, 3 to 6 months expenses in physical cash at home and in a safe deposit box. Yes, actual paper dollars, because when the ATMs go down or banks impose withdrawal limits like they did in Greece and Cyprus, the guy with a stack of hundreds still eats. Bucket two, another 3 to 6 months in short term T bills accessed through treasurydirect.gov or a brokerage that lets you ladder them. Still dollar denominated, but backed by the full faith and credit of the US government instead of your local bank that's loaded up on underwater commercial real estate loans. Bucket three, the oh shit bucket, physical gold and silver coins in your possession, not ETFs, not paper promises, actual Eagles, Maples, Krugerrands you can hold in your hand and hand to someone for a truck full of groceries. If the dollar goes to zero, 10 to 20% of your net worth in precious metals is the historical insurance during every currency collapse on record. Step three, move a meaningful portion of your wealth into Bitcoin and self custodied cryptocurrency right now, not when it dips, not after the next halving. Now. I'm not shilling meme coins or telling you to YOLO your rent money. I'm telling you that Bitcoin has been the best performing asset of the last 15 years for a reason. There are only ever going to be 21 million. It cannot be printed. It cannot be seized if you hold your own keys, and it moves across borders at the speed of light with no third party permission. Every empire that has ever collapsed has seen its currency destroyed. Every single one. The ones who owned the next money, the new global reserve, became the new elite. You don't have to understand the blockchain to understand scarcity. There are 21 million Bitcoin. There will never be more. There are 8 billion people who are about to figure that out the hard way. I teach every detail of how to buy it safely, how to take self custody with a hardware wallet, how to run your own node, and how to use privacy tools so no three-letter agency can track you. That's what Angry's Crypto Academy exists for. If you're still leaving your stack on Coinbase or Cash App in 2025, you might as well hand the keys to your wealth to the same people who gave us 34 trillion in debt. Step four, create multiple streams of income that are location independent and anti fragile. Your 9 to 5 W 2 job is a leash. One HR complaint, one recession, one DEI layoff, and you're done. You need income that you own and control. The beautiful part, we live in the greatest time in history to build that. Start with a high income skill that pays in dollars but can be done from anywhere. Copywriting, software sales, SEO, paid ads, web design, 3D modeling, whatever matches your aptitude. Spend 6 months grinding 20 hours a week after your job learning it on YouTube and Upwork. Within a year, you can replace your salary and then layer on an online business, e commerce, info products, a YouTube channel like this one, a paid newsletter, coaching, something that scales without you trading hours for dollars forever. I know plumbers making $30,000 a month selling $49 online courses teaching other plumbers how to get off the tools. I know ex cops running gun channels clearing seven figures. The barrier to entry has never been lower, and it will never be this low again. The goal is simple: get to the point where if your boss fires you tomorrow, your response is thank you for the free time. Step 5: relocate or prepare to relocate to a place that still has rule of law, low taxes, and pro freedom politics. If you live in California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, start planning your exit today. Your state is already in a death spiral of high taxes, crime, and insane regulation. The politicians there will be the first to impose wealth taxes, rent controls, and gun confiscation when the federal money printer finally breaks. The best states right now, November 2025, for freedom and cost of living, dash Florida. No state income tax, Pro 2A, same governor, minus Texas, same plus massive job market, minus Tennessee, no income tax, growing fast, beautiful land. Idaho, still cheap land, very red, strong prepper culture. Dash dash New Hampshire, live free or die is real. Minus South Dakota, banking privacy laws, no income tax. And you don't have to move tomorrow, but you need to have a paid off or low mortgage bolt hole in one of these states within 36 months. Remote work and crypto make this easier than any time in history. I know men who kept their $200,000 California salary, moved to a $250,000 house in Florida with no state tax, and pocket an extra $40,000 a year like found money. Step 6: build your physical security and self sufficiency stack. Get in the best shape of your life. Lift heavy 4 to 5 days a week. Do cardio. Learn to fight, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, boxing, whatever. A strong man is harder to kill and more useful in a crisis. Get legally armed and train monthly: handgun, shotgun, AR. 15, 2,000 rounds minimum per caliber, plates, med kit, night vision if you can afford it. The police are not coming when seconds count. 6 to 12 months of food that you actually eat: rice, beans, oats, canned meat, freeze dried, whatever. Water filtration that doesn't need electricity, a generator or solar setup with batteries, basic medical supplies, and antibiotics. Jace Medical is legit. A garden, even if it's containers on an apartment balcony to start. None of this is prepping like the TV shows. This is basic adult responsibility in a collapsing empire. Step 7: rebuild your tribe from the ground up, because in the end, your network is your real wealth. The loneliest men right now are the ones who still believe the TV lie that you don't need anybody. Wrong. Lone wolves get eaten. Packs survive. Start local and viciously intentional. Find your 5 to 10 guys who think like you, train like you, prepare like you, and would take a bullet for you. Gyms are the new church for this. Powerlifting gyms, jujitsu academies, CrossFit boxes that haven't gone woke. You'll meet more high caliber men in 1 year of serious training than 20 years of corporate happy hours. Church is still one of the best places if you find a based one, not the rainbow flag because Jesus was a socialist megachurch, but a real Bible believing congregation that isn't afraid to talk about family, duty, and righteousness. Men's groups, Bible studies, hunting clubs, shooting ranges, cigar lounges, barber shops that still play war movies on the TV. These are the watering holes. Online tribes matter too, but they have to lead to real life. Discord servers, Telegram groups, private forums. Use them to organize meetups, not just to argue. I've got brothers I met on the internet who've flown across the country to help each other move, start businesses, or just stand shoulder to shoulder when life got heavy. That's the standard now. Your tribe is your insurance policy when the system finally breaks. When the trucks stop rolling for 3 weeks, when the banks close for a holiday, when the power grid goes dark because some diversity hire didn't maintain the lines. Your tribe is who feeds your kids, watches your back, and helps you rebuild. Step 8, the one most men will ignore until it's too late. Go all in on becoming the strongest version of yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. This is the master key that unlocks everything else. Lift 4 to 6 days a week, eat meat, eggs, and sunlight, sleep 8 hours. Cut the porn, cut the seed oils, cut the endless scrolling. Read one book a week, start with the classics: Meditations, the Bible, 48 Laws of Power, Can't Hurt Me, The Art of War, anything that forges iron in your mind. Meditate or pray every single day. You're going to need a calm center when the people around you are losing their minds in the bread lines. Stack money like your bloodline depends on it, because it does. Live on half your income for the next 5 years and stack the rest into Bitcoin, land, tools, skills, and relationships. The men who come out of this collapse richer than they went in won't be the ones who waited for the dip or trusted the plan. They'll be the ones who treated every single day like war. And finally, the move that ties it all together and turns the death of the American dream into the birth of something greater: full detachment from the systems that hate you. Stop arguing with people on the internet who will never change. Stop trying to save a country that doesn't want to be saved. Stop feeding your life force into dating apps filled with entitled women who offer nothing but liability. Stop giving your best years to corporations that would replace you with an H-1B tomorrow. Stop watching sports leagues that hate you. Stop consuming media that programs you to be weak, broke, and compliant. Walk away. That's what MWA really means. It's not quitting. It's strategic refusal to participate in your own destruction. When enough high value men do this at scale, when we stop marrying, stop enlisting, stop spending, stop simping, stop voting in rigged elections, stop propping up a system that treats us like utilities, the system either reforms or it collapses under its own weight. History shows the second is far more likely. And when it does, the men who prepared, the men who built parallel systems, the men who became sovereign in every sense of the word, they inherit what comes next. The American dream as we knew it is dead. Good riddance. It was built on borrowed money, borrowed time, and borrowed morality. But a new dream is rising, one where a man's word is iron, his family is sacred, his wealth is untouchable, and his freedom is non negotiable. A dream built on reality instead of promises, on strength instead of safety nets, on brotherhood instead of bureaucracy. That dream doesn't need Washington's permission. It doesn't need corporate approval. It doesn't need women who hate men or politicians who hate the country. It only needs you to decide right now that you're done being a participant in your own demise. So here we are at the end, and I just handed you the entire playbook, the same one that took me from broke and pissed off to free and dangerous in under 5 years. The same one thousands of men in this community are executing right now while everyone else argues about elections and interest rates. Now, the question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to close this video, go back to scrolling, and hope someone else fixes this? Or are you going to pause, open the description, enroll in Angry's Crypto Academy tonight, and start building the life that the old system promised but never intended to give you? This isn't the part where I soften the blow or tell you everything's going to be okay if we just vote harder. This is the part where I show you what the end game actually looks like when a superpower dies. Because most men have no idea how violent, how fast, and how personal the final stages get. I want you to see the movie before it plays on your street. So when the day comes, you're not one of the millions standing in line at the bank with a confused look on your face, wondering why the ATM only spits out $20 a day. History is very clear on this. Empires don't end with a bang or a whimper. They end with both, usually in the same week. But first comes the currency death spiral. We're already in the early innings. The dollar has lost 20% against the basket of real goods since 2020, and that's using the government's cooked CPI numbers. Real inflation for the things men actually buy, rent, trucks, tools, food, insurance, ammo, is closer to 12 to 18% a year and compounding. The Fed is trapped. If they keep rates high, the interest on the 34 trillion blows up the budget and forces default. If they cut rates and print again, the bond market revolts, foreigners dump treasuries, and the dollar falls off a cliff. Either path ends in the same place, a forced reset where your savings account, your 401k, your pension, everything priced in dollars gets haircut 50 to 80% in purchasing power in the span of 12 to 36 months. Look at what happened in Argentina in 2001, in Lebanon in 2019, in Venezuela across the 2010s. Middle class families who thought they were fine woke up one morning and the money in their bank was still there. But it bought 10% of what it did the year before. Then capital controls kicked in. No taking money out, no converting to dollars, daily withdrawal limits of $50 or $100. The government called it a bank holiday. It lasted years. You think that can't happen here? The infrastructure is already in place. The Dodd-Frank Act of 2010 quietly gave the FDIC the power to do bail-ins, meaning they can legally freeze your deposits and convert them to bank stock to save the bank. Cyprus 2013 did exactly that. People lost 50 to 80% overnight. The US has the template ready to copy and paste. And when the big reset comes, the IMF and the Fed will call it necessary restructuring, while the same people who created the mess fly private to their New Zealand bunk. Next comes the social breakdown phase, and this one is going to hit American men like a freight train because we've been disarmed psychologically for 2 generations. When the dollar dies, food and fuel prices triple or quadruple in months. Truckers can't afford diesel, grocery chains run on 72-hour just-in-time inventory. 3 missed deliveries and the shelves go bare. That's when the CBT system glitches or gets cut 30% temporarily because the government can't borrow another trillion overnight. That's when the cities that are already 40% dependent on government benefits turn into war zones. We saw the preview in 2020 with the George Floyd riots. $2 billion in damage, entire downtowns looted, police told to stand down. That was with full grocery shelves and working EBT cards. Imagine the same energy when people are actually hungry and the checks bounce. The National Guard won't be enough. They'll impose curfews, checkpoints, digital IDs, emergency cashless society measures, all sold as temporary, all permanent. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The people who've been told for decades that America owes them, that white people are the root of all evil, that masculinity is toxic. They're not going to blame the politicians or the central banks. They're going to blame you. The guy with the pickup truck, the guy who still has a job, the guy who prepared. You'll be the kulak, the counter-revolutionary, the hoarder. History rhymes hard on this one. Rural areas and small towns will be mostly fine because everyone knows everyone and social trust is still high. The suburbs will be mixed. Some will band together, others will get overrun. The cities, write them off. If you're still in a blue city when the dollar drops 50%, sell at any price or rent it out to Section 8 and leave your life expectancy measured in days, not decades. Then comes the political fracture. The federal government will try to impose nationwide gun confiscation, digital currency with programmable money, expired dates on your dollars, negative interest rates, social credit limits on what you can buy. Half the country will comply. Half the country will tell them to come and take it. That's when the maps start getting drawn. Red states versus blue states, flyover versus coasts, people who produce versus people who consume. Texas and Florida have already made noises about going their own way. When the transfer payments stop, The red states stop sending tax money to Washington, and the blue states can't feed themselves without it. That's when national divorce stops being a meme and starts being the only peaceful option left. The military will split. Most combat arms and special forces lean heavily right. Think about who actually enlists to kick doors. The officer corps and support branches lean left. A lot of hardware walks out the gate with the guys who know how to use it. Foreign powers, China, Russia, maybe even cartels, start picking at the carcass. Taiwan falls while we're busy fighting ourselves. The petrodollar dies completely. Oil hits $500 a barrel in nominal dollars that are themselves collapsing. And through all of this, the media will still be telling you it's your fault for not trusting the experts. This sounds extreme until you realize every single piece of it has already happened somewhere else in the last 30 years. We're not special, we're just late. But here's the flip side nobody talks about. Collapse is the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and it always flows to the prepared. In the Weimar hyperinflation, the industrialists who borrowed massive fixed rate loans in marks and owned hard assets became the new aristocracy. In Argentina, after 2001, the guys who moved 20 to 30% of their wealth into dollars or crypto before the Corralito became the new rich. In the Soviet collapse, the men who controlled food, fuel, and protection services became the oligarchs. The same thing is going to happen here, only faster and on a bigger scale because everything is digital now. The men who own Bitcoin, when the dollar dies, become the new millionaire class overnight. The men who own farmland 100 miles outside a major city become the new feudal lords. The men who own tools, generators, water filters, ammo, medicine, and the skills to use them become the most valuable humans on the continent. The men who built private security details, private schools, private medical networks, private food supply chains, they become the foundation of whatever comes next. This isn't doomsday fantasy. This is opportunity if you have eyes to see it. That's why I'm not depressed. I'm excited. For the first time in my life, the playing field is about to be leveled with a nuclear warhead. All the Ivy League credentials, all the corporate ladder climbing, all the debt-fueled fake wealth, it's about to evaporate. What's left is what always mattered: land, resources, skills, brotherhood, and balls. The meek don't inherit the earth. The dangerous men who prepared while everyone else watched Netflix do. I want you on the right side of that line. I want you to be the guy your neighbors come to when the power's been out for 2 weeks. The guy your sister calls when her husband gets laid off and the banks freeze their accounts. The guy your sons look up to because you saw this coming and did something about it instead of whining on the internet. That's the real red pill, not just seeing the matrix, breaking out of it and building your own. So when you look back at this moment, 5 or 10 years from now, remember this was the day you decided whether you were going to be a victim, a bystander, or one of the men who rewrote the future. The American dream is dead. Long live the new one. Tell me in the comments. Be savage, be honest. Which part of this cut you the deepest? The housing scam, the war on men, the dollar death spiral, the border invasion? Or was it the realization that nobody is coming to save you and it's all on your shoulders now? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one and I reply to as many as I can. Like the video, if this lit a fire under you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. And if this spoke to your soul, share it with every man you know who still has a pulse. The red pill pipeline needs to run at full blast right now. And just remember, all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers, brothers. See you in the next one.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.